people never take the time to actually contextualize what worst case scenario looks like. You know what I mean? Like I
Yes,
think
it's a
people are just
misunderstanding. Correct, yeah, and a really great point to bring up, and that's what I tell people all the time is like you're misunderstanding what you're misunderstanding what the worst case scenario actually looks like. And for me, understanding what that worst case scenario was, like the risk to reward just works out. You always have to look at risk versus reward. The biggest risk to me was like, look, I don't have a ton of debt. I never spent a bunch of stupid money on cars or anything like that. I didn't have credit card debt. I had really great credit. I watched my spending. I stayed disciplined and frugal in my daily finances and my personal expenses. And I put everything else that I had into growing the business, including my time. And yeah, that fundamental understanding and confidence to be able to attack what you're doing, knowing that like, hey, look, if it all goes to crap in 6 months, okay, it's gonna suck, and it's not gonna be like I'm not gonna be happy about that, right? But like worst case scenario, I can be back to the exact position that I'm in within 6 months of all of it going away. And that's a really short period of time when you look at the amount of reward that could come if it's successful. You know what I'm saying? If it's like, well, but if it's successful though, I'm going to be doing exactly what I want to do. I'm going to be making the money that I want to make the way that I want to make it, and having all the freedom in the reward was way too big to not take the risk. You know what I'm saying? And the risk was just really low when you look at what's the actual absolute worst case scenario here.
and on the note too, I feel like people don't take the time to look at the best case scenario. They just kind of latch on to that worst case scenario and just focus on that as opposed to all the positives that could potentially happen as well.
And they give too much value to what other people's opinion is of the worst case scenario. Like if you really think about it for yourself, like that's what it was for me, man. Is like people have always looked at me like that, and people probably always thought I was crazy, and people talk shit about me in multiple contexts all the time. And like at the end of the day, like they're not the ones that have to wake up and be me every day. I'm the only person in the entire world that wakes up every single morning and looks me in the mirror. Like I'm the only person that has to do that. So like I want to make sure that I'm happy with the person I'm looking back in the mirror at. And I knew that I wouldn't be happy if I didn't try to at least go for these big goals and dreams that I had. Like it just doesn't make sense to me not to. Like again, worst case scenario, man. Like I take out a couple credit cards and I rack up some debt while I save up some more money doing some sales gigs to refill my bank account, pay off my debt, and then try something else. Try something else that's going to be a big reward. You know what I mean? Like the worst case scenario, people give way too much weight to the worst case scenario because culture tells them that it's horrible. It's really not horrible. Like in life, we only have a few basic necessities. We want to be loved and accepted and felt and heard, right? Like things like that. But in terms of materialistic things, like we need food, we need water, we need shelter, and we need some clothes. Like that's not that expensive if you're willing to bite the bullet and be disciplined for a while. And so I was just always willing to do that.
Do you think another part of it too is an overvalue of money? Do you think that's another big reason for it?
Yeah, overvalue of money and a lack of confidence to go get more. That's the reason why people don't spend money, or don't invest money into things that they know they should be investing into. Like if I look at that mastermind that I joined for 100K, and I decided not to do it because I don't want to lose 100K. It's like, well, I'm just afraid that I can't go get it back if I lose it. That's the reason why I don't want to spend it. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously, I'm not saying that that's always the reason that you shouldn't, or else in that logic, you would spend money on everything that comes to your, front door. But, as long like having some discernment, some discipline, again, I'm, obviously don't mean it that way, but I do mean it in the way that like, if you think that it's a really good fit and you know that it's something that you should be doing, you feel it in your gut that this is something that you should be doing, something that you should be taking full advantage of, and you don't do it, like it's comes from a lack of confidence in your ability to go generate that amount of money again. For somebody that makes $1 million in a year, that's why they can take bigger risks and spend 100K on something, because they're like, oh, I'll make 100K next month. You know what I mean? If somebody makes $25,000 a year, they're like, man, it takes me 4 years to make $100,000. I'm not spending 100K on anything, because like it took me 4 years to make this money, and that's not even money that I got to keep because all of it went to my bills. You know what I mean? Like that's why it always takes those people a long time to get ahead. But if you can develop the skill set to go get more money, it makes you realize how truly renewable money is. Money is the renewable asset that we have in life. Time is not. And so I was always willing to exchange money for things that allowed me to save time.
And building up that confidence is one thing. You kind of mentioned this earlier as well, but it's building up confidence and also being able to maintain that confidence even when people are talking down to you or talking negatively towards you and talking shit about your goals, right? So how did you build that up? Because like you said, you've had to deal with that. I'm sure you had to deal with it a ton when you made the decision to kind of step out of ministry and go do your own things. Like, what are some ways you developed that kind of that armor to be able to kind of shield yourself from the negative opinions of others on this journey?
The number one way to build confidence is to keep the promises that you make to yourself. That's the number one way. Um, you have to have an impeccable relationship with you if you expect other people to have a good relationship with you. It's amazing to me how people will treat themselves so differently than they will treat other people. You know, they'll keep promises to all the people in their life, but they won't keep the promises they make to them. You know what I mean? Like if you say that, you know, and start doing stuff like that. Start making little promises to yourself. Start making small micro commitments that you know that you can be able to keep. Every time you keep one of those promises, it's another notch. You know what I mean? It's another step toward having that confidence that you really want to have. Is, you know, small things. Hey, this week I'm gonna get up at, you know, if you're used to get up at 8 o'clock, hey, I'm gonna get up at 6 a.m. every day this week. Cool. And if you do that, do it. I don't care what happens in life. I don't care what situation came up. Do it. Like, don't, people make way too many commitments and they don't keep any of them. I make very few commitments, but when I make the commitment, I do it. That's why I'm afraid of commitment. I'm afraid to make commitments because I know that if I commit to something, I'm going to do it. So I have to evaluate that decision a lot more carefully because I'm not just going to make commitments willy nilly and then wonder why I don't like myself when I look myself in the mirror and wonder why other people don't want to do business with me. If you don't even like yourself, how do you expect other people to like you? If you don't even trust yourself, if you have a subconscious distrust of yourself, how do you think that comes across in a sales conversation? How do you think that comes across when you're trying to exude confidence in, you know, while you're doing some business development for your new company? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't even feel like you deserve the success, if you don't feel like you've put in the work, if you don't feel like you're a trustworthy person, that's going to come across in everything that you do. Confidence matters like a lot in those scenarios. And the best way that I know how to build confidence is to continue to make promises to yourself that you actually keep, regardless of the context. You know, making a promise to yourself is not the same thing as like setting a goal and achieving it, by the way. It's it's taking the action to achieve it the best way that you know how. You know what I mean? And making goals that are similar to, like, so like in 2020, my workout goal was not like lose weight or get to the certain pounds or whatever. It was do 300 workouts in 2020. So work out every day of the year minus 65 was my goal. And when you make a goal like that and accomplish it, man, it feels so good when you get to the end of it. You know what I mean? And it gives you that notch to be like, if I truly commit to something, I will do it. And when you have that type of confidence and you can portray that type of confidence in what it is that you're doing, that'll instantly make you better at selling your ideas, selling your proposals, selling your product or your service or whatever the case may be.
And so should these promises then kind of with the workouts, not pounds, it's workouts themselves that you're doing. So should these promises be process oriented as opposed to results oriented?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, and I'm not, and that's not to say that you shouldn't have goals. By the way, I'm just saying, like, if you really want to focus on building your confidence, then it's really good to focus on the actions that you can control. You can't control a lot of the output sometimes, but you can control the input. You know what I mean? Like, you can control the fact that you can get up and go to the gym. Maybe your body reacts differently. Maybe you had some stress and some extra cortisol in your bloodstream that prevented you from losing the weight, but like doing the thing, that's really great for your confidence building, is my point. So like, if you're going to make a commitment, do it. If you say you're going to read a book this month or a book this week, do it. Even if it means that you got to stay up till 3 a.m. the night before your deadline, do it. Do it. Like that confidence is so key, man.